Hello and welcome to the Dad and Buried podcast. As always, my name is Mike, aka Dad and Buried. I'm here with my co-host Pete. Say hello, Pete.
Hey, you might know me from the internet.
No, you wouldn't because you're not on social media. So
but I'm on it. I'm often found browsing the internet.
Are you on Wikipedia?
I go on it often to look things up. I like to enjoy a little fact checking. I like to, is that really the right thing? And then, yeah, it's good.
You're that guy who goes on and like changes celebrities like high school nicknames to like something hilarious. Yeah.
Right. Or like that other guy, the one person who's contributed, what is it, like 70% of all of Wikipedia is like one individual. Yeah, that's not me either. I just browse and I go into different rabbit holes. So
that guy's a hero. We should all praise him.
He is a hero, and he's the hero we want our kids to grow up to be.
I mean, he's changing the world, right? Like, no one's checking if he's correct. Like, how many kids do you think go on Wikipedia and read some entry, have no idea who this Joe Schmo is who entered it, and just believe it? Hook, line, and sinker. Probably all of them these days. Kids are dumb.
Yeah, kids and me, we're all dumb, because I certainly don't fact check Wikipedia. I just take it as truth.
Yeah, me too. You know why? Because it's faster that way.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. So we are back. It is the end of June, amazingly. I can't believe that. We both have vacations lined up where we're both taking our families to the beach.
Together. Just so everybody's aware, we are obviously going to be podcasting together. Like they say, you podcast together, you vacation together.
And you merge your families. That's how Mormonism started, right?
Yeah. It's sort of an early version of podcasting, and then it became what it is today.
Joseph Smith and the podcast legend. So when we get back, maybe we'll talk about how horrible it was to take our young kids to the beach. Although you have a slightly older daughter who I'm sure, I don't know, what does she do? Like put on headphones and like read books?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wish. Well, that's one of the things we're going to get into tonight, because we're talking about things we wish our kids did and that we're jealous of when we see in other kids.
So that's the thing. Like, you're going to go on vacation, I'm going to go on vacation, and while we're at the beach or whatever, we're going to look around, we're going to see other families, whether we're on the beach or like getting something to eat somewhere or at a bar, and we're going to be like, look how amazing those kids are.
Oh my God, look. Did that kid just listen to their parents and actually sort of do the thing that they were asking, the very simple task that their parents were asking? Wow, what a wonder that must be to be in that family. Then after a little like cajoling, you're like, no, I still can't be in your family. I want to be in your family. Give me your family.
And then it turns into Cape Fear and you get arrested.
I want your family. Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna be talking a little bit about jealousy. And as we get older, as you said, as the kids get older, it's so when they're younger, it's very much like who hit what milestone first and that kind of thing, which I think can be fairly toxic, especially since that stuff moves so fast. And by the time the kid is 10 years old, how quickly he started walking, compared to your neighbor doesn't matter. But as you get older kids, suddenly you start to realize, all right, like my kid's a reader.
Yeah, my kid still isn't walking, and he's just the laziest. It's not for any disability other than the laziest human being in the world. And
I don't mind that as long as he lets me push him in the stroller. Sometimes that's easier. If you're going somewhere with your kid, if they like, my kid's gonna be at 10 years old. I keep them in the stroller. You can hang your bags on it. You can put drinks in there and stuff. You get your hands free. Carry your kid.
We recently went to Coney Island, and I was asking my wife. I was like, "Hey, we should bring the stroller." And she looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" And I looked at her. "What are you talking about?" And it went really well.
I bet it did.
I was like, "No, so that we have a place to put our stuff," because that's the one thing I kind of do miss about strollers, which is just you just had a base. You had like a family base, and you could put that thing anywhere. And the nastier the stroller, the better the base, because you just crush up a bunch of like goldfish. You get some stains on it. Nobody wants to. What are you gonna have someone digging through that? Trust me, no one's going near the same.
We have two strollers. We have like a heavy duty one. We've had the same one since our first kid was born that the Hammer still uses. And then we have the umbrella one. And let me tell you, the umbrella one is just like for, quick and dirty stuff. But the problem is if the kid is in that and you have bags hung on it and then the kid gets up, everything tips over. So if you have kind of like open drinks or anything like that, that's always a huge pain in the ass.
I never was a fan of a heavy stroller. I like the light. And by the way, the difference between a McLaren and what was Uppa Baby? Oh my God, fuck out of here, Uppa Baby. My God, dude.
Well, you know what? You got the big bucks. You get the McLaren. You know?
Yeah, of course.
I don't even know the names.
Way higher. And first of all, well, because you can actually push it straight. The Uppa Baby the wheels would lock like the way the wheels would. Like
well,
when
you
you
need
go.
the one wheel in the front that swivels and stuff.
I don't need.
You're wrong about this. We should have an argument offline.
Yeah. Let's, you know what? Let's save this argument for when we're not recording, just so we can really get into it.
I can't pretend I'm having a good time during this argument because it just makes me so angry. So, yeah, we're gonna be talking about the stuff that we see other kids and other parents dealing with, and maybe they have better kids than ours, which is just, in my case, almost every kid is probably a little bit better
this is what we're talking about. Like it's that moment where you take your kid to Little League or to soccer or something, and all of a sudden there's like your kid, and then there's the other kid who's like, where the hell did you learn how to do that?
Yeah.
And it's just like an inherently good. Oh, this is his first time playing. Really? And then you look at your son, and your son's like not like playing with a peanut wrapper on the floor, and you're like, dude, lift the ball, like kick the ball, like show these guys, and like, no, not into it. And you're mortified, but what you end up doing is just slowly taking it out on them over the course of a very long period of time. So it all works out.
So my kid was usually the kid who was swirling around in the outfield and like doing pirouettes. And then every once in a while, some like 6-year-old gets up there and they have like an amazing stance and they're knocking the ball into the outfield in the other park. It's incredible and very, very depressing when you realize that's my fault because I was in band and I don't have
Yeah. Well, listen, if clarinets were cool, man, you'd be the Miles Davis of clarinets.
Well, it is pretty cool. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of from my childhood, and I don't need to be denigrated here.
Oh.
Instead, we're going to denigrate our own kids as we compare them to other kids who are better than us. And we'll be back in right after this to talk about that.
All right, let the denigration begin.
All right, so Dad and Barry podcast tonight. We're going to be talking about a little bit of parental jealousy in terms of, what we wish our kids would be like when we see that it's possible for other kids to listen or to throw a strike, or to read a book, or to talk respectfully to their elders or their parents. Right? This is all stuff that I dream of. And when we go on vacation, as we said, suddenly you're around a lot of different families that maybe you don't know. That are strangers to you, and you see their kids behaving wonderfully and accomplishing things you could only dream yours would accomplish.
Exactly. Just, mother, may I please go to, just awesome. Yeah.
Amish families, it's amazing. So
yeah.
When you first raised the topic of this, I was like, do you mean like being jealous of things other parents have? And you're like, no, kids. But I did put out the question about jealousy in general, and we did a whole episode on this, but almost every single response I got in relating to what other parents have that our listeners want is free babysitting, like family nearby to help, the village, right? Whether it's family, close friends, community, people to help carry the load, people that you can leave your kids with so you can go away. We did an entire episode on how frustrated it makes us that we don't have those things and seeing other people have that. So this weekend, I was in Connecticut visiting my parents. We've only done it a few times since the whole COVID thing began. So it was nice to be back. We used their pool. My brother and his sister came over with their kids, and they live the town next door to my parents, and they're over using the pool all the time, hanging around, chilling. My kids, they don't.
Your brother and his sister? Brother
and my sister-in-law.
I don't understand this family at all.
It's strange.
Just look, all weird. In the pool. Yeah.
We're
okay.
A little kooky.
Okay.
But so my sister-in-law has like 5 sisters of her own, and her parents are younger, and they're constantly giving their kids to them to like go out for dinner or do the movies, or sisters coming over and babysitting, and just like the free babysitting stuff. When we had Mother's Day, me and Mom and Barry went into Manhattan, and because we don't take the subway because of COVID, we had to pay for the Uber, pay for the babysitter, pay for the dinner. It was like $8,000. It's just unbelievable. If my mom wasn't so selfish and like moved here to Brooklyn, I could just ditch my kids on her all the time.
Yeah, just suck it up. Just move to Brooklyn for God's sakes, and just come on, man.
But I think what's happening is my mom sees my kids and then also sees my brother's kids, and like she prefers my brother's kids, right? She's like, look what they got.
Oh, really?
Look, I'm saying I'm jealous of how well behaved my brother's kids are sometimes.
Okay.
He has 2 girls. We have 2 boys. It's a different thing. You have boys and girls.
Yeah.
Is your kid? I know the youngest.
My boy.
2 breakfasts.
Yeah, 2 breakfasts. Yeah. He's definitely got boy energy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Although we have a pretty kind of robust family dynamic in terms of the girls are not we don't have any shrinking violets. Everyone has a very strong opinion about who needs to be doing what at exactly what time and how they should be doing it, and they just will feel free to like impose that on whoever else is around.
With each other, or they impose that on you and your wife?
All of it. Check all of the above. Yeah. So my son is, I think he's actually generally like a very like nice person. Like he's just like a nice boy, but he's got just that boy energy, and he's like a Great Dane type puppy. So he'll like run, and the way the volume at which he talks is so loud. Like we went over to my brother who also lives in Connecticut, and my brother was like, dude, you it's okay, I can hear you. I'm outside. Like
no inside voice,
use your indoor voice outside. You know what I mean? And I told my brother like, we don't have an indoor, but he doesn't have an indoor. It's just one volume. So
that's one thing I didn't hear that in the responses. It wasn't like I wish my kids were quiet. Like I've seen, because I don't know that anybody's kids are quiet, right? So nobody looks at other people's kids and is like, look how quiet those kids are. Or do they? Do you get jealous of kids? I don't think I've ever witnessed a quiet child.
Well, funny you say that. So I went camping not too long ago, a few weekends ago, with some of the dads, my dad friends, and their kids.
Not me. Though.
No. It was obviously we super vetted list, and no, but you just basically one of the dads was the first time he had taken his daughter camping, and she was young. She's like I think 3, and I've never seen anything like it. She sat in a chair and just was like as happy as could be to just be kind of listening. Meanwhile, my kids are like, no, screw you, just like, just raising hell, just kind of like, put the stick down. No, put the tree down. Like, okay, come on, just constantly, into no good or up to no good. And just didn't require too much. I was like, just go bloody in the woods somewhere. But this little girl would just sit, and she was so happy to just say, oh, would you like some food? Oh, sure. Let me just eat everything that's in front of me, and here you go. Thank you. It was so amazing. I've never seen anything I've never seen any other kid actually do that. That was the first time I've seen that.
I think that's an important distinction here, right? So what we don't necessarily want to do tonight is talk about the ways we like compare our kids to other kids, because every parent does that, and every parent tries not to do that because it's bad for you. And comparison is the thief of joy, whether it's about yourself or your kids. But what we're saying here is that when we see these other kids with these traits that our kids don't have, we're like in awe, right?
Right.
Like, oh my God, look at that kid. How did they get their kid to turn out that way?
Exactly.
What did I do wrong? Kind of thing. So a few years ago, I went on a cruise, and this is apples and oranges because my kids were like 5 and 2 or 7 and 2 at the time. And I was friendly with somebody we met there. I'd known them as an acquaintance, and they had like their 14-year-old daughter, and she was like the most respectful, well-spoken, which is, I guess, not weird for a 14-year-old to be well-spoken, but it's just kind and intelligent and like interesting to talk with her. And she was good with my kids, and meanwhile my kids are Tasmanian devils wreaking havoc, like up at the buffet, making messes of all the ice cream and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like, how do I make that happen? And now 3 years later, I realized I'm incapable of making that happen because my kids have only gotten worse, and it's my fault.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. My middle daughter just graduated from middle school.
Congratulations to all the graduates.
Yes, congrats, all the
And
grad.
your daughter graduated and is going into middle school like my son. They graduated elementary school and are
Yeah, sorry,
going
I
to
miss. Yeah,
middle school.
exactly.
Yeah.
They graduated fifth grade and going into sixth, going into middle school, and so my daughter's actually best friend or one of her best friends. Uh, I didn't know this. I guess she's the valedictorian of middle school. I'm like, okay, what? How did that happen, right? Like, I've like no idea. And what was so interesting about it is that this is not like her friend is very. I kind of want to say strange. She's just very strange. Like
Like unique.
there is like it's like the Phantom Black of emotion. Like I'll try and like make like jokes or most kids you can kind of like play around with like how's it going or whatever, and there's some reaction. Nothing. Like we'll look through your soul and you're like, oh, ooh, okay.
Was it maybe because your jokes are terrible?
Yeah,
I've experienced that.
Yeah, it's so weird. Everyone seems like they're Phantom Black next to me.
What's the problem here?
Yeah, I don't know. So she all of a sudden she's up there and she delivers this speech that I was like, oh my God, like what the hell? I was like it was well thought out. It was, but it was perfectly from a fifth grader's perspective. It was strange, and just really well thought out. Well, it had an arc. There was like themes to it. There were callbacks. It was like so well done. I couldn't believe it.
So this was
at my daughter's graduation. So I'm sitting there with my arm.
Daughter? Was this the older daughter?
No, middle.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there with my arm around my daughter. And I just was totally blown away, and I realized I was just slowly digging my nails into the shoulder, shaking my head, looking at my daughter, going,
"So I had the
look
same
at that."
thing. I had the same thing. So my son, who was graduating from fifth grade, matriculating through to middle school, there were a couple of speakers at his thing, and I don't think it may have been valedictorian, like grade based. I don't think so.
By the way, they don't ask randos to speak. It turns out it don't ask random people.
But teachers can notice like who's good at speaking or who wouldn't be uncomfortable. It's not necessarily based on GPA, but who knows? Maybe it is. And it was like astonishing because regardless of like the level of intelligence or being able to speak well, like my kids, my 10-year-old is pretty articulate, but I just know that like he would be too nervous and like too shy to like put himself forward to even like do that and to stand up. And that's one of the things. So I put the question, like, what do you see in other kids that like you wish that as a parent, like your kids could be like, or that you're jealous of other parents for having kids that are like that? And as you mentioned before we get on air, a lot of the stuff skews a little bit younger, right? Like, so a lot of it was, I wish, my kids slept in or slept longer or was an issue to put them to bed. And every parent deals with that. And some of it was like, I wish my kid ate more, but there were some stuff, or were less picky eaters, but there was some stuff like, I wish my kid was a little bit less shy or like would take more risks or was more independent, right? And that's the kind of stuff where it's not just, little kid stuff where you're like trying to teach them how to be a human. It's like watching their personalities emerge and you're like, for them to be like fully realized human beings who are like successful and stuff, like you're curious about how they're going to turn out, but you're also like, I wish my kid was like a voracious reader and who was into that stuff, or was a gifted speaker or whatever. And when you see other kids do that, it's not theoretical anymore. You're like, shit, like maybe I could have done something to make this happen.
Well, this is what's interesting about this particular topic, because I think that speech and that girl, my daughter's friend, is exactly what caused me to spark, because outside of that particular speech and just in general, obviously she's incredibly intelligent. There's like I don't envy her, like her particular personality is very particular, and that's great for her. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, if I could just pick like these things from this person. I mean, you put my middle daughter in any situation and she just is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, so on that end, it's incredible. Like she's very like gregarious, and she has a lot of friends, and that's amazing, right? And my God, we're so lucky that that's the case. But But like when it comes to like school and reading and stuff like that, like it's just like, it's like every day just trying to like, hey, how's it going? How's the book coming along? Like, oh, you didn't do anything. Oh, you had to do something else. Like it's just a slog to try and get her focused on this stuff.
Do you ever find yourself comparing those traits or like being jealous? Like your 13-year-old is like very industrious and like independent and has her own career already, right? Right. Do you ever are you ever like, oh, I wish she was like more gregarious like my 10-year-old, or you wish your 10-year-old was more like industrious? Like, because I see like my oldest is like, he's a little anxious and doesn't like take a lot of risks, whereas my 5-year-old is very happy-go-lucky and nothing really seems to get to him too much. And I definitely am like, I wish my 10-year-old had some of that in him, right? And then I'm like, with my 5-year-old, I'm like, oh, I wish he would, be interested in reading the way that my 10-year-old is, that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
You do that amongst your own
kids. I mean, that's it, right? Like it's funny how there are certain things, and I think this is part of basically it's part of just recognizing that these things are going to happen, where you're going to look at someone, you'll be like, oh my God, that is incredible. How did they get to that place, right? And then, like I'm extremely proud of all my kids, but just each one of them has something, except for my son. But just they all have a magic spark. I mean, when I say all of them, 2 of them have a magic spark, and one of them we don't know, right? Like that's why you have multiple kids. Honestly, it's called redundancy. Yeah. No, but there is definitely like my middle daughter's way more chill, which I like.
If you could go back and you knew what your kids were going to be like before you had them, would you have continued to have 3, or would you have had like a genetic engineer merge them all to be the best ultimate Anderson child, like Voltron, like
that's
all their best traits together in one child?
Oh, I see. Interesting.
So
you mean a child that eats 3 breakfasts, is industrious, is a huge asshole to everybody. Yeah. But knowing my luck, that's exactly what would happen. It'd be like the movie Twins, and I'd get, the Danny DeVito character, and then the Arnold Schwarzenegger would be someone else. But no, I like it, actually. I really like the spread, and I think it's really interesting. They really complement each other, and it's just I mean, there are these times where there's just certain things, you can't help it. It's just these little things where you're like, oh man, couldn't you just do this, or what happened over here? Like, man, should I have like pushed more on this, or should I have taken my foot off the gas on that? And so that person would be this way.
No, we're never gonna know. We've talked about this. I've talked about this in my blog a million times. You and I have talked about this. Like, you're not gonna know, even if you know whether your kids turn out well or not. You're not gonna know what parts of it you were responsible for. Like, which one of your parenting techniques actually resulted in the positive thing or the negative thing. You're not going to know. You just kind of have a general sense of yourself, like, oh, I did this well or I didn't. But the nature versus nurture thing, how can you tell?
Well, I'm going to be able to tell, because if you just scream the same question over and over again, like, which one was it? What did I do? If you do that enough, it's sort of the answer, like, sort of reveals itself.
You scared me so much about failing at soccer that I became great at soccer. You're like, exactly. Having class is the whole point.
Exactly. Is that fast or slow? Is it fast or slow?
I watched that scene again recently. He gets slapped in the face a couple of times. That's what I do to my kids. Doesn't work.
And what's the name of that actor that like is in every movie, but like nobody knows who that is?
J.K. Simmons? The guy?
No, everybody knows J.K. Simmons. I'm talking about
Teller. Kid. Miles Teller, yeah.
Jeez.
You don't know who that is?
I gotta go to Wikipedia and look that up.
He's playing Goose's son in the forthcoming Top Gun sequel.
We don't need that.
You know what?
We don't need a 90-year-old pilot who does his own stunts.
First of all, he looks younger than your 6-year-old. It's amazing. Scientology does wonders for your skin.
Yes,
let me tell you that, and that's shitload of plastic surgery. All right, so I do want to get into a few of the comments that people left. So as I said, a bunch of people said that they're jealous of parents whose kids sleep in.
Yeah.
I have friends so my big argument with my 10-year-old who wants to stay up later is you don't sleep any later. So if we let you stay up until like 10, you need to sleep until 8. But it doesn't matter if he goes to bed at midnight, at 2 a.m, or at 7 p.m. at night. He's still getting up at 6:30.
I'm just going to say this, sleep, there's no doubt sleep will always happen. He's a preteen right now. Once he's going to have another year or two. In another year or two, you're not going to be able to wake him up because that's just what's going to happen. So that's what happened to my older. She'd sleep all day if she could. I
remember I had conversations. I have a brother who's 10 years older than me, and I remember I had conversations with him. And I used to make fun of him for sleeping so late. And he's like, you're going to fucking do it too. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And then you know what? Lo and behold, I was sleeping at like 1 o'clock on Saturdays. It's glorious. It was glorious.
It is glorious. And then luckily the good news is it eventually stopped when you entered your 40s.
Yes, it did. And now my children don't let me sleep late, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What I would give to sleep till 1 o'clock. Actually, it got kind of gross to sleep. Like you wake up, it's like the middle of the day. I'm not.
It is kind of that weird, horrible feeling. Yeah.
So Megan _Billing said that she's jealous of parents whose kids sleep in their own bed. Well, you know what, Megan? Maybe you shouldn't have broken the seal on the co-sleeping, and it wouldn't happen. That's what people say to me. If I post something on Instagram about like how my kids co-sleep a little bit, and people in the comments will just get all self-righteous and be like, well, you shouldn't have. I never let my kids in my bed, and it never happened. They're basically, fuck you. You know what? Fuck you. All right? This is the kind of stuff you don't have to deal with because you're not a mogul, an influencer mogul on Instagram, Pete. You'll never know the struggle.
Yeah, no, I know. I live vicariously through you and your massive empire that you've amassed.
But so I wrote a comment about how I have it. Like I thought clearly jokingly referred to it as a social media empire, and a bunch of people called me, oh, you're an empire. I'm like, dude, that was the whole point of calling it an empire, was that it's an absurd concept. You sons of bitch. See, again.
Yeah, now you're already worked up. Yeah, exactly.
So a bunch of people said that they wish their kids were less picky. Again, this is the kind of thing where, like, when they're really young, most kids are picky on some level, except for, Karen's kids who fucking eat sushi. Shut up, Karen. Right? But later in life, like, I was a very picky eater as a kid, and I'm not anymore. There's a couple of things I just don't like because my parents psychologically abused me and forced me to eat them as a child, and now I just can't without like shaking. But I'm much more adventurous and will eat. Again, this is the kind of thing like when they're teenagers, when they're older, that kind of stuff goes by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to behavior, this is the kind of stuff we're going to see on vacation where you're going to be like at a restaurant and somebody was like, I wish my kids would like be able to sit at a restaurant without a tablet or whatever. And then someone in the comments, I swear to God, somebody's going to be like, maybe if you didn't give them a tablet the first time and you taught them the art of conversation, this would be shut up. You know what? Sometimes when you go somewhere, you need to give them a tablet so you can have a little bit of time. But I do think, the sooner they learn to exist like at a table without that kind of thing, the better off you're going to be. But it's hard, and it's not. Some of it's the parents' fault, and some of it's definitely the kid's fault. And I'm going to blame it on the kid.
Yeah, I think it's easier if we just blame the kid. Yeah, I find it easier if I just take the blame from me, and I live my best life by putting it on someone else. You know what I mean? Like I want to do me, and I want you to do you, but I want you to do it over there quietly, but then also somehow transmute all of my desires into you. So is that so hard? God,
I don't understand why people have such trouble doing that.
I don't know.
Really frustrating.
Oh, I like this one. Big Tree, Little Tree says their kids aren't clingers. So I don't know if they're referring to like kids their kids are actually clingers, so that they're jealous of kids that aren't. Because I've seen, you know what I mean? Like I've seen that
I
where
think that's what they mean.
Yeah, because I mean it's hard. You go to a party and for fucking 2 hours you're just sitting there and the kid's just like wrapped around your leg and you're like, just like I don't have kids like that. And actually I'm that's a good one because I'm like thank God I don't.
So it's funny. Because I put those two in a row. So Big Tree, Little Tree said their kids aren't clingers. And PT Juana said their kids stay with them instead of running off. So she wishes her kids were a little bit more clingy because she's nervous. So that's when you need to get the leash, right? So they can't get far, right?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, you get that little leash on. It's perfect.
These are solvable problems. You got to listen to the Dad and Barry podcast. Me and Pete know. Just get the leash. So Brooke Borda-Babin said, kids who listen. Again, this is the kind of thing, the age the kids are, every parent is going to run into this. Unless, I guess there are kids out there who are like super well behaved and listen to their parents and respectful and stuff. They're usually not your kids. They're somebody else's, which is kind of this whole thing.
That's true. Well, I was going to say, like, one of my colleagues that I work with he is an older kid, and because he's older, he was having a conversation on speakerphone, which was intensely irritating. However, he was talking with his daughter, and I was like, wait, that was your daughter and not a paid actor? Just yes, just like so sweet on the phone, and the dad just kind of giving his daughter like all these instructions, like, oh, well, apparently electricity went out, so she's having her check all these things. Okay, check that. Now I'm going to check this. Just one after another. Did you do that? Yes. Yep. Okay. No, this. Very sweet. And literally, they ended it with like, I love you too. I love you. Boom. But, and I'm like, what the hell was that? Who is that person? And just like, just the nature of how like receptive she was to his rather. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. He wasn't tiptoeing. He was pretty like straight blunt. Like he was like, yeah, check this, check that. Not could you please? And she's just, it was the most sweet like response coming back. She wasn't and
bristling against it. She was like, yep, let's do it.
No, and so like, oh, yeah, I know. So then what immediately I did is I just internalized it, and now I hate him. So it's fine.
Well, I hate him too, if that makes you feel any better. Yeah. So one thing I did want to mention, I thought is so we have a little section here called going places, where somebody was like, similar to being able to go to a restaurant and like, now my kid can sit there and not need a tablet. Mama Marion says kids who will just sit at the beach and play in the sand instead of running straight into the waves. Adriana Bitt said, when it looks easy for people to take their kids places, and I put emphasis on looks, right? Because a lot of this is like when we go to the beach and we see stranger families and stuff like that, or at a restaurant, you're only seeing like a bit of it, right? And it, just the same as like social media, you're seeing a curated portion. It's a little bit different out in public, but odds are, even if they're doing something really well and they seem really well behaved, when they get back inside or whatever, the kids are doing something wrong. There's no perfect kids out there. So
that's right.
It's a trade-off, and you're getting little glimpses. You can't ever really know, but it is always important to point out those glimpses and show your kids and say, see how much better they are than you? Why can't you be like that?
Exactly. That's why I've trained my family. So when we go to the beach, there's a lot of laughing and hugging. And what we try and do is we basically try and make direct eye contact with kids that have families. Yeah, and just what we'll do is we'll slowly move over near them. I mean, obviously socially distanced, but then sometimes we'll just have a wonderful family moment, and then we get back home and it's, you goddamn, I told you, smile more in that picture.
But you know what? You can bond over the fact that you've made some other family feel worse about themselves.
Well, no, that's how we.
I like it because I know one of your big philosophies is to weaponize parenting.
Yeah.
I like the way that you not only do that internally within your own family, but you also use your family and you weaponize it against other people's families.
Listen, what is this life if not to go around weaponizing things that probably shouldn't be weaponized?
I love it. You know what? It's one of the things that you and we really connect over.
Hey, listen, if North Korea can do it or maybe not do it, depending, so can I.
Yeah, I also model my parenting techniques on North Korea.
Yeah, it's a big philosophy that has been instilled into me.
So another thing, so I mentioned I was in Connecticut this weekend, and my brother and his kids were there. So my kids got to like play with some kids their own age, or at least my youngest, because my brother's kids are younger than my youngest. But my youngest was having a great time with his cousin. They're 5 and 3. And I have a lot of friends who have big cousin families, and a bunch of the responses to my question is like, what are you jealous of? Is parents were like, kids who have cousins to play with. And this is sort of the same thing, like the extension of the village, right? Where we have family who can take care of our kids. I was thinking about this, like when I go to the beach with my kids, or when I was at the pool this weekend, they're looking at me to like come in and play with them.
Yeah, totally.
The pool. At the beach, it's even worse. They want me to like build sandcastles and all that kind of shit. And I wish sometimes they had other kids to play with their own age they could do that with, because God knows, as siblings, they don't really do that too well. They have their moments, but lately it's been horrible. But a lot of people, I think, were like jealous of seeing other families that have
Yeah.
not only siblings who get along, but
But
broader
age.
networks.
Yeah, well, just that like similar ages. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the thing. Is like we're gonna go see a family of friends of ours that have kids that are similar ages, and they all just kind of pack up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way it goes generally, we're gonna be with them for like about a week, and the way it'll work is they'll pack up thick as thieves, and then around about Thursday, some kind of drama will cause some sort of nuclear meltdown where everyone's screaming and crying, and then they'll come back together like 20 minutes later and be playing Mario Kart. But well, my oldest daughter is actually with her cousins in Connecticut today. It's been great, and it is good. It is good to have that for sure. And I think that's the other thing that I was thinking about, which is sometimes you see a personality trait in another kid that you're like, God, I'm so glad my kids aren't like that,
Not
right?
like that.
Not too long ago, there was actually, it was funny. My older daughter graduated, so she's going into high school, and so I was at her graduation as well. And we were taking pictures. Everyone's taking pictures and whatnot. And this one boy, a friend of hers, or I don't know if necessarily if it was just part of her class, his parents were there, and we're like, oh, everyone's taking pictures, and we're like, should we take a picture, you guys? And man, the stink eye that this kid gave like us, like my wife and I, for like suggesting to take pictures, and then of course the parents were like, yeah, let's try it. He was such a dick about everything. I was like, yo, whoa, okay. Like just straight up, just like a dick, like, oh yeah, like really, like this sucks. Like, oh God,
And then you went
just
home
like,
and you like hugged your kids. You're like, I'm glad you're not like that.
yeah, actually I was glad that for just that one moment.
Yeah. That's all it takes sometimes to get by. Just those moments. Just like seeing another kid that's worse than yours can really fill your heart with joy.
Yeah, it can just get, oh, thank you, God, I've done at least one thing.
So you mentioned the personality trait thing. We talked about it a little bit earlier. So this is getting away from some of the behavioral stuff that I think is just inherent to younger kids. In a lot of ways they kind of grow out of. But the personality stuff is the stuff that like as they get older, you're looking to see like, oh, what kind of person are they going to be? Are they going to be like me? Are they going to be like my mom? Or are they going to be like this kid next door who's better than all of us? I don't know. What did I do wrong? And a bunch of people did say like the shy thing, like I mentioned earlier. Sing H. Vishu said sometimes she wishes she had a kid that wasn't shy. And again, it's not, I don't think, because I have the same thought sometimes. It's not so much that like, oh, she's like, it's a drag that my kid is shy. It's more like, it will be better for him if he were less shy, right? Like, and it's like sometimes you're watching your kid or you're watching other kids who have like no problem mingling or like stepping
or like
forward
having fun, right? Like having fun. Right.
They're a little bit more trepidatious or like anxious about like putting their foot forward or trying something they haven't tried before. A couple of people said that, or like, Candace Higgs, I have an anxious child, so she's jealous of parents with calm, flexible, easily adaptable kids. Like my 10-year-old is not super adaptable, and like it's hard to get him to try stuff, even though we know he will like it once he kind of gets over the hump and gives it a try. And it sucks to see other kids doing that so easy, and you're like, you will enjoy life more if you're like able to get past this kind of thing.
Right. Well, no, that's key. I mean, like that's it, right? Like it's just that. I know you will be able, it's going to benefit you in the long run if you can just, kind of stick with it. Like even, like the reading thing for me, for sure, for my kids, certainly my younger kids, just be, because I don't know, our first daughter, older daughter was, we had the time, I guess. To basically not have her on the iPad all the time. Also, it wasn't a thing when she was born, right?
Yeah.
Like so exponentially we've like and we tried as long as we possibly could to not put them in front. Yeah. But then of course you find yourself on a plane and you're like, oh well, like there's no way that we're not, or like you find yourself at a restaurant or something like that, and you're like, look, I just like I need this. Like I need to put my oxygen mask on first before I help you. Well, just because otherwise I'm going to do it's shaken baby syndrome everywhere. Like I'm going to shake everyone's baby at this point. Yeah.
He's gonna run around the restaurant shaking.
And not in like a cool, fun, political way, like a really angry, dangerous way that's not good, and that they tell you about when you first have a baby.
But that's the thing, right? So like, we know all of this. Like when our wives are pregnant with like the first kid, we kind of know all this, and we're like, all right, I want to like engender these traits. I want to do this, and then when you're in the trenches, especially when you have more than one kid and like real life is coming at you, you don't always react in the way that like I'm supposed to react this way so that it like makes my kid understand that like they can take risks, but they'll still be safe or whatever. Instead, you like scream at them because you're scared what they're doing is going to get them hurt. And then all of a sudden you've given them a complex and now they're too scared to like speak in front of class at 5th grade graduation. And you look like a fool in front of all these other accomplished children who can do it. Exactly.
Listen, a wise man said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I constantly am saying that particular saying and looking directly into my kids' eyes as they scrunch their faces and be like, "What are you talking about, Dad? Jesus."
Every baby has a plan until you shake the hell out of them, right? What are you gonna do now, baby?
Jesus, Mike, damn,
please,
that went dark.
Please.
But I kind of appreciate. I got to be honest with you. I was into it for a half second, but
So Amanda Hott complained about. Or again, she didn't complain. I'm the complainer, but she's jealous of parents whose kids are nicer than hers. And again, the like manners is one thing, but like I feel like it's not necessarily that the kids are nicer. It's that like in the moment that you're seeing them, they know they're Eddie Haskelling. They know how to fake it. They know how to put on appearances, right? Kids aren't that nice, and they're and most kids, I think, are savvy enough, or for whatever reason, we all see this. They're like better behaved in a lot of cases with people outside their family. And when it's a safe space. They're much more familiar. They're more likely to like snap at you and stuff. So like niceness, I think, can be an illusion. I'm not saying Amanda Hott's friends aren't nice. But let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Come on. But that's why I thought it was so interesting with this kid at this graduation who was just a total dick. And then I did a little bit of research and found out, it's serious. But but actually it's so funny. So my brother has 3 daughters and they're older, sort of more in the range of my oldest daughter who's 13 now. And I'd only ever seen them, they're my nieces, and I'd only ever seen them just be so like lovely and sweet and nice and polite and whatnot. And I swear to God, it was this trip. I'd never seen it. Like I was about to tell him to knock the shit off. I was like, guys, you like stop being such a dick. Like just move over. You know what I mean? And it was like
that a relief for you?
Yeah, totally.
It was a chink in the armor.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like it was actually pretty interesting to see. And then I had the double whammy of my daughter, my 13-year-old, gets introduced to someone who was visiting. My brother came, stopped by, or neighbor or whatever. And oh my God, if my daughter wasn't just like, oh my gosh, how are you? Like, I was like, I don't even know who this person is.
And then that person leaves, and it's like, that's a young woman.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I did is I chased that person down, and I had him fill out a survey. I sent him a survey monkey, and I was like, tell me what you thought. Yeah. I was like, this is my daughter's like that the whole time. Please tell everyone.
So the next category was the athletic one, which we touched upon a little bit easier. And it's not just athletics, right? It's like when you see some other kid with some kind of like particular talent, whether it's dominating the clarinet like I did when I was a child, or being really athletic. And there's some kids who can just, even you knew them growing up that like whatever sport they played, they were great at, right? Like it didn't matter.
Natural athlete.
Yeah. And it's like, this is the kind of the dream, because you want your kid to get you a scholarship and to buy you a house later when they make it to the pros. And then when they don't do that, you're like, it's not my fault that I'm too short for the NBA. It's your fault that you didn't practice shooting enough.
Exactly. And then you start listing off the heights of the shortest NBA players, and you say
Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have been Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah, exactly.
But you blew it. You didn't have the drive, and that's not your mom and my fault. It's your own.
It is interesting. It's funny. My older daughter was in a path for ballet for a long time, and was dancing with the New York City Ballet. So it was amazing, and was actually professional. She was paid for it, as were a lot of other kids. But so a lot of people are like, oh, that requires a lot of athleticism, which was always my big thing, because I think what it was more was just dedication and hard work, to be honest with you. And it wasn't because, man, if you throw a ball or kick a ball to her, it's like, huh, really? Oh, ballet, huh? Okay. Interesting. Whereas my middle daughter is is the fastest. I mean, throwing a ball, kicking a ball, like running, just like the natural mechanics are just so there, and it's amazing to actually watch her. She's actually the fastest. Or what did she say? She was the fastest during like recess. They had a competition with all the kids, the fastest kid at school. So not just between the guys as well. So of the boys and the girls, she was actually the fastest, or maybe as fast as one of the boys. But so the point is that it's funny how these things, and then of course, my son, I don't know, maybe next time, right? Maybe
the less said about his speed, the better. Or lack thereof, athleticism.
He definitely inherited it all from me. He inherited it all from me. So, yeah.
So, but it is always amazing when you like meet a kid who. So we have some friends, and they know like all the kids at our school and stuff, and they're often like pointing out kids who are like particularly good at certain things, and you're like, wow, like these kids really sound special. How come I never encounter these kids? And I'm starting to think they're making up these children.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's the other thing. Parents, beware of fake children. That's really one thing you got to do, because there's a lot of talk about, oh, this person is so good at this. You know what? Question your kids a little harder. They're like paper tigers. It'll come right down.
It'll crumble.
Yeah.
We all know the truth.
There is no Julian, is there? Julian's just a figment of your imagination.
Julian.
Okay. Yeah.
So, one of we got a little bit, some of the serious responses we got. So, about like parents who kind of wish like that their kids, some parents were like, oh, I wish my kids were more better behaved in school because my kid has ADHD, right? So like you're dealing with some of those trouble where they're not focusing in school. Brendan J. McDonald said he's jealous of parents who have kids that can relax and chill because his kid has ADHD, or I don't even know that his kid has ADHD, but my kid has ADHD, and if he's not occupied at all times, that can be like really exhausting. Somebody else mentioned that, one of their kids, they wishes their kids sometimes didn't have like sensory issues, right? Because it's exhausting for the parents. And this, not only is it exhausting for the parents, like it's exhausting for the kid, right? Like kid who has anxiety, like some of these people were like, I'm jealous of parents whose kids don't have ADHD or oppositional defiance disorder, or it's just harder on the parent, emotionally harder on the kid. And then there are a handful of people who said, like Parker Paradise is jealous of parents who don't have kids with life-threatening conditions who can live normal lives. And I was at a party for my kid's graduation, and I was talking to another parent, and he has a kid who was graduating with my son. She's 10. And he has a younger kid who is like in a wheelchair and nonverbal and has to go to like a gifted school. And he struggles with his daughter sometimes because she's like, doesn't get enough attention. He's like, we just have to devote so much attention to the younger kid for his like well-being and health. And Parker Paradise, I think, is just like, other parents who you see with, so-called normal, who knows, everybody's situation is different. You don't know everybody's circumstances, but the stress it puts on the parents and the kid who have kind of conditions, like my son, not comparing it to anything else, but like has a tree nut allergy. And it's not even anywhere near as bad as like a peanut allergy, but just like being on alert about that. Sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have to deal with that. I know with your daughter, I'm sure like the epilepsy thing is in the back of your mind sometimes, right? So like every parent wishes, their kid had a clean bill of health and you didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But the good news is with that stuff, it's not really the parent's fault. That's all on the kid. Right?
Yeah. No, it's like, of course, the kid chose a stupid nut allergy, you idiot. You know what I mean? Just stop being allergic is what I say a lot of the time.
Snowflakes.
Yeah.
Eat some more tree nuts when you're a baby so you can get used to it, okay, kid?
Yeah, exactly. Or actually, you know what? Hey, Mom, listen, when you're pregnant, eat a bunch of tree nuts, get a bunch of mangoes and papayas.
I should have been, when she was like, get me some Ben and Jerry's, I should have been, no, you're eating fucking walnuts.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Yeah, walnut paste and papayas and mangoes and other things that are people.
Do your kids eat a lot of fruit?
Yes, but like certain kind, not like they're not adventurous with fruit, but they're we have like a spectrum of like from bananas to strawberries and apples and stuff. Like, yeah, but not like
fruit is a pretty safe thing to be adventurous with. But my kid, I don't eat any fruit. I'm not a fruit guy at all.
I like
fruit.
Yeah, fruit's good. I mean, I like yeah, but you just kind of stick. I stick to the lakes and the rivers that I'm used to. You know what I mean? It's hard to like be like, I wonder if the mango this time is going to be right. You know, because just so many times like, oh, a pear. We've never done pears. Like that's just something, you know, just
my kids love pears.
I know, but it's just out the normal spectrum of what we normally get.
They're not one of the main ones. Pears are trash. Let's just get it out there. They're trash.
So they can be trash. Oh, and by the way, they're not only can they be trash, and the reason they're trash is because there is a window of like 45 minutes that you can.
Yeah, I know.
Where like they're too hard, and then immediately they're just all of a sudden like just this disgusting open sore.
That's what she said. Yeah. So I wanna. Why did you just quote waterfalls? Like, did you hear that song recently?
That's literally one of my go-to phrases for everything I do in my life. I just say.
But you learned the phrase from the song.
Of course. Yeah. And I always stick to the lakes and the rivers that I'm used to, and I never go chasing waterfalls.
But that was your jam, like back in high school? You just loved Waterfalls by TLC?
No, I just loved using that one phrase, and it just got me so much social credit. Basically, I guess is the word to say. Invited to parties, prom king, like just everything.
Prom king, off of the phrase that you plagiarized and passed off as your own? Or would you say, as my friend like Left Eye or
they'd say like, oh my God, he's using this really obscure lyrics, and he's sort of bringing it into real life, and he's making us think about it. Let's get him. And then they would stuff me into the locker, and then I'd pretend. I'd be like, well, I'm prom king in here. And they'd say, shut up in there.
It's about drug addiction, I believe, right?
You know what?
So you were basically
telling your
classmates, stick to like pot. Don't get into the hard drugs.
Also, it's one of my favorite phrases to use at work, just to really single someone out in a meeting and just really shut them down. I'm like, you know what, Sally or Greg with 3 Gs.
So when somebody's like getting too big for their britches, you're like,
no, not even. If someone has just an idea that I think is really good, I just say, you know what? Why don't you stick to the lakes and the rivers that you're used to, okay?
And then you steal that idea.
I'll be the one going after the waterfalls. Do you understand me, Greg, with 3 Gs? Sally?
So wow. So the son that you murdered or abandoned is now works where you work?
At the airport. Yes, that's right. That I was legally able to. Yes.
Are you sure that this child did not run away after you quoted TLC too frequently?
There is a very good chance. Honestly, Mike, it is amazing that I found a mate, someone to be with, who hasn't already decided just to pack it in. I know my kids are thinking about it every day. Whenever they wake up, they have this adorable little phrase like,
"Get out of here."
No, they say, "This guy again." And then
take it easy, big fella.
Yeah, they say, "Take it easy." Well, that's exactly. It's all led by the.
I won't lie. I'm fascinated. It's the first time I've ever heard you use that phrase, and I know for a fact that it is because there's no way I wouldn't have called it out the other time if I had ever heard it before. So I'm just, I'm unpeeling the layers of Pete.
Oh my God, it is an onion. Okay, fine, it's an avocado, but look.
You don't unpeel an avocado.
I know, because it's right there. It's all right there, just under the skin, until you get to the big, dark pit in the middle.
Wow.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, and that wraps up another episode of Dad and Buried with your good friend Pete. Oh, and Mike's here too.
Yeah, AKA Dad and Buried. The title of the damn podcast.
The damn podcast, exactly.
How many people
whose whole family is basically Anne buried. You're gonna have to, when your brother starts his podcast, he's gonna have to be
Uncle
brother
and buried.
buried.
How many people do you think listen to this podcast and they're jealous of our kids for being so perfect?
An absolute shit ton. I mean, this is the thing. First of all, we're absolutely massive in Belarus. So that's we're the top 3 dad podcasts in Belarus.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we are in Auckland, New Zealand. We are the 3rd lowest dad podcasts, and there's only 4. So it's tough.
Well, Western Australia loves me. I don't know if New Zealand is on the west side or the east. I think it's the west side of Australia, right? So maybe that's where the connection is.
Maybe that's where it is. Yeah. Well, to all our Kiwi friends, you know.
Oh yeah, we never told people that they can listen to us wherever they're listening to us right now. You're already listening.
That's my favorite thing. Hey, listen to us. You can listen to us on iTunes. Yeah, no shit, dude.
Well,
Thanks.
We would love a review and a subscription, and for you to tell your friends that if they want to get a load of a podcast with a bunch of dads with kids, this is the one.
And then if your friend says how many's a bunch, and you say 2, you know what? Just immediately be like, that's also considered a bunch. It is. And then your friend will say, no, I think that's a couple. And you'll say, shut up.
You say, hey friend, why don't you stick to the rivers and the lakes that you use?
Yeah, exactly. Let me chase the waterfalls, okay? Greg.
Unbelievable.
All right, but yeah, we would absolutely love a review.
Yes, we would love a review and
you know what I mean?
Subscription. And check us out on YouTube if you want.
Yeah, I mean, do it or don't. I don't know. Whatever, man.
We're gonna do this anyway, so.
Yeah, we're gonna do it anyway. So there we go. But
whether you like it or not.
But we love it, and we love you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
All right, that was pretty good.
So, I
don't know why you would still be watching This Isn't a Marvel Movie, no matter how much I look like Paul Rudd, which you can deny it all you want. It's there in the eyes, I think. I'm young looking like him. If you enjoyed the podcast, which you obviously did or you wouldn't be listening still, sign up on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to. Comment here on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button. We want to hear from you. Comments, questions, dirty jokes, money, all the money you can give us. We'd love it all. Catch you next time.